Good morning. It's great to have Cherry Creek in the house. We look forward to this every year. We love this group. My name is Jennifer Prescia. I'm the education coordinator here, and we start every program here at the Center for American Values with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you will rise, we will say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So how Miss Tanya talked about all of these portraits are Medal of Honor recipients, I'm going to do a little bit of explaining about what the Medal of Honor is, how it is earned, how it is awarded, some statistics about the Medal of Honor. Then I'm going to go into a little bit more about the Pueblo Four. If you would hold your questions, keep them on the top of your head. We'll go over questions at the end. So the Medal of Honor is our nation's highest military honor for valor. And valor means courage. Valor means courage. Valor is defined as great courage in the face of danger, but especially in battle. The Medal of Honor is always awarded for combat. So that's why we say this is from World War II and this is from Vietnam, because these gentlemen were actually fighting in those wars, because it is a combat medal. Awarding the medal is authorized for any military service member who distinguishes himself through conspicuously by gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty while engaged in action against an enemy of the United States. And just to back those up, those are some long words. Distinguishes itself, makes known, conspicuously, makes known in a big way. By gallantry is courage, and intrepidity is when you know there is danger and you decide to do it anyway. So gallantry is being brave. And I think there might be some misconception about when these gentlemen were in battle that they were not afraid. They were definitely afraid, but they learned how to behave and how to work through it anyway. That is gallantry. And intrepidity, have you ever tried to cross a stream only walking on the stones, trying not to get your feet wet? I have. It's a losing battle for moi. Intrepidity means you know you may fail. There's a good chance when you walk in that water that you're going to get your shoes wet, but you do it anyway because the goal is bigger. You want to get to the other side, right? And that's how it is with earning the medal. So this medal isn't given just happenstance. This is for those things. These men have proved themselves in all of those things. And then you throw in the risk of his life above the life of another. It's always for sacrifice. These truly are our American heroes. We might think that, football heroes, people who could sell out concert venues, you might think that those guys are pretty cool. These guys are truly American heroes, the people who put their life on the line for ours. So moving on, what is the process? At least 2 sworn eyewitness statements. So 2 individuals have to have seen what this recipient did and then make an eyewitness statement, and then all the other evidence is gathered, and then a recommendation packet is made to go up the chain of command all the way to the commander-in-chief, the commander-in-chief being the President of the United States. And then if it is passed by Congress, then the medal will be presented by the President of the United States. Recommendations must be submitted within 3 to 5 years and presented within 5 years. But the cool thing is actually the last 2 medals that were given, the last 2 medals of honor that were given July 3rd of 2024. They were from 2 individuals from the Civil War. So they're always looking, did we miss something? They're always checking these backgrounds so that make sure that those who should have been awarded the medal were awarded. Okay, so the medal represents 3 things, and it's written all over this place. It's written above my head: honor, integrity, and patriotism. That's what this medal represents. Honor, integrity, and patriotism. Honor, being the kind of person that you know you can be. Integrity, doing what you say that you're going to do. Patriotism, caring enough that you want to see this country be better than it is and doing something about it. That is honor, integrity, and patriotism. And that is why it's so important that we teach exactly these values that are important, so that so that our country will last. Because when you have at our youth, when they are conscious of a higher standard of honor, integrity, and patriotism, they come through. I've seen it time and time again. I love working with the young people in this state. They come through. They are stellar. And I have great confidence in all the things that they're going to do. I'm going to show a short video, and this is going to be of Medal of Honor recipients that were all here last summer, and they're telling you what they think honor, integrity, and patriotism is.
Honor is something that you earn, but you never seek.
You have to honor your values. You have to honor your family. You have to honor your country.
It's all from inside coming out.
There's nothing if there's not any honor. If you don't have honor, you miss the boat.
Integrity is your most valuable asset. And if you ever jeopardize it or lose it, you'll never get it back.
We all know what the right thing is. Now, whether we do it or not is an entirely different thing. But we all know what the right thing is. That's the integrity, when you know it and you do it.
If you're gonna say something, you do it.
You can carry that into any job. You can carry it into your family. You can carry it into your church. You can carry it into your community. You can carry it into be a Medal of Honor recipient.
Patriotism speaks for itself. Love your country. Give back to your country.
And you got to feel it within yourself, in your heart. There's where patriotism comes from.
This is my country, and I'm a patriot. I will defend the flag.
Patriotism is not that we're going to take and fight a war or do something like that. Patriotism is for the country, building the country to be something that's better than what it was, better than you found it. That's patriotism to me.
In many ways, wearing the medal is much more difficult than it is to receive it or earn it. And the main reason for that is the tremendous honor that it is to be awarded the Medal of Honor, but in doing so, you represent all those veterans that don't have a voice. And it's so important that we're able to express to the country what it is to be a veteran and to fight for the country make sacrifices for our way of life and our beliefs.
The Center for American Values is a feature attraction on the Pueblo Riverwalk. More than 100,000 students have participated, empowering them to identify and define the personal attributes that relate directly to American values. This hardcover book is a special collection of quotes that reflect the honor, courage, and humility of our most decorated war heroes.
And we ought not to look on anyone as a hero unless they're not also a good person. That should be the essence of a hero.
Enjoy this extraordinary collection of photographic portraits and documentation of more than 160 Congressional Medal of Honor recipients.
Very good. Now we're going to talk about the timeline. It was 1862 when President Lincoln, which was during, you can say it if you know it. Which war was President Lincoln? Civil War. Very good. That's when the Medal of Honor was established in 1862. But it was President Roosevelt who signs an executive order decreeing that the Medal of Honor be presented in a formal ceremony. One other little tidbit that I will let you in on, President Roosevelt is the only American president to have also received the Medal of Honor. And another thing that's cool about him is his son also received the Medal of Honor. So that's Teddy Roosevelt. And then all branches of the armed forces have an approved Medal of Honor. And I'm going to give you time to look around the gallery after this. We have the actual medals in a blue case in the back so that you can see them. They're a little bit different for different services. So you can see what they look like up close. And then in 1958, President Eisenhower signs the Congressional Charter, creating the National Medal of Honor Society. Here's some statistics. As of today, there's been 3,519 recipients of the Medal of Honor. And when you think about roughly 40 million individuals who have served in the military, you can see what a very small percentage it is of Medal of Honor recipients. Today, there's only 60 living Medal of Honor recipients. Only 60. We have one who lives in the state. Actually, we have two Medal of Honor recipients that live in the state of Colorado. Mr. Pete Lemon lives in the Colorado Springs area, and Mr. Drew Dix lives in the Pueblo area. And he is so disappointed that he wasn't able to be here with you today. It was his intention to be here, but he had a little bit of a cold and he didn't want to pass it on. But we're going to learn a little bit more about Mr. Dix coming up. National Medal of Honor Day is March 25th. If you want to throw a National Medal of Honor Day party, be my guest. We do here. We have a big celebration here. And then there's 4 recipients from Pueblo, Colorado. The Pueblo, Colorado's moniker is the home of heroes. So when you visit Pueblo, Colorado, know that you are visiting the home of heroes. It's a great privilege and responsibility to live here. That's why I do what I do, to tell you all how great we are. And it was President Eisenhower. Oh my goodness, it was President Eisenhower when he put the Medal of Honor on Jerry Murphy, that he said, "What is it? Something in the water out there in Pueblo. All you guys turn out to be heroes." So drink that water. We all need more heroes. So now we're going to go through and I'm going to tell you just a little bit about the Pueblo 4. So in the back, you're going to see their portraits are up there. The first recipient that we're going to talk about, though, is Mr. Bill or William Crawford. Mr. Crawford, he grew up in Pueblo, Colorado. He went to Central High School. And when I say Central High School, it is still the same high school where Mr. Crawford walked the halls. He was in the Army, and he served in World War II. If you look at this picture, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about it after I play a video. What president is that? Does anybody know what president that is? That is President Ronald Reagan. Was President Ronald Reagan president during World War II? No. So that's why we're going to hear a little bit about that, just how special Mr. William Crawford is. But first I'm going to show a little video about him, and you're going to hear in his own words how hard it was to be an American soldier, how hard it was to do the things that he had to do.
The most dramatic thing, I think, when I had this guy's head in my sight, that was the most dramatic thing. But it didn't bother me to throw hand grenades and fire at him, but just to shoot someone right without him looking at you was, it's a heck of a feeling. It's hard to describe, something like that.
I was just sitting down the hall here in my room as a cadet. My roommate was studying, and I was reading this story about the march up the Italian boot and the tough time that the American military, the GIs were having as they pressed down or up the peninsula. And they were talking about unit specifics, which I enjoy reading about, and they were commenting on specific organizations and people and deeds of people and how tough it had been for them. And I came across the name Bill Crawford. At first it didn't dawn on me, and then it got into the part about the Medal of Honor. And I went back and I read it again, and the name, there was something there, but I wasn't catching it. And then finally it dawned on me. And I remember looking over at my roommate and I said, "You're not going to believe this, but I think Bill Crawford received the Medal of Honor. I think our janitor wears the Medal of Honor."
On September 13, 1943, United States Army Private Bill Crawford was with the 36th Infantry on an assault of Hill 424 near Altavilla, Italy. At the point position, out in front and alone, the young scout encountered not just one, but 3 well-camouflaged enemy machine gun nests hidden in the hillside. With gunfire raging all around, Crawford dove for cover in a small ravine. Acting on his own, without orders, Crawford made the decision to crawl through the ditch and position himself just a few feet behind the Nazi gunners. Summoning a burst of courage, he took on the better-equipped enemy with only grenades and his M1 rifle.
On his own initiative, he first attacked one of the machine gun emplacements, then turned to attack the second.
Altogether, he knocked out 3 machine gun nests and never got shot himself.
When the dust settled, Crawford had single-handedly wiped out all 3 of the enemy positions. He destroyed their guns and crew, allowing his previously pinned company to advance. The courageous effort earned Crawford the Medal of Honor.
I was astounded at the bravery. My God, the courage that he displayed and the level-headedness and the manner in which it went about it.
Okay, so that's Mr. Crawford, and I told you I'd tell you a little bit more about him. After he finished his service in the United States Army, he moved back to this area, but he still wanted to work, so he took a job at the Air Force Academy as the janitor. And one of the cadets recognized him, Colonel Moscat. He wasn't a colonel then, but later he was. And he made it known that this man, this honorable man, who was cleaning the floors, who was cleaning the restrooms, was also a Medal of Honor recipient. He showed such respect for him that when it came time for their graduation, he made it possible for President Reagan to actually present Mr. Crawford with his medal at the graduation ceremonies, because Mr. Crawford had never had a public ceremony. So that's why Ronald Reagan is shown giving him the medal. And if you have a chance, there's some letters in the back that are behind a clear case. Ronald Reagan talks about what it meant to him to be able to present William Crawford his medal. So that's Mr. Crawford. Now we're going to talk about Mr. Carl Sitter. Carl Sitter also grew up here in Pueblo, also went to Central High School. He also fought in World War II. He was, however, a Marine, and he earned his medal for the Korean War. Even though he fought in World War II, Korean War was right up against that, and he fought in Korea. He was a leader of men in Korea, and he's still known for his supreme leadership skills, Mr. Sitter. So we're going to hear a little bit about him, and he's going to tell you a little bit about courage.
Every person has fear. The courage is the coming out that you can overcome your fear and carry out the instructions or the duties that you're supposed to do. Believe in God, believe in the commitment that you have as a Marine officer, and have a courage to carry out the orders that you're ordered to do. Laying down in a foxhole and your foxhole buddy raises his head and gets hit in the head and half of it blown off, you really then realize that just how short our lifespan is and just how fragile we as human beings are. When you give your life for your fellow man and your fellow Marine, that is one of the most courageous things that you could do.
In 1950, United States Marine Corps Captain Carl Sitter received orders to take and hold East Hill at the Chosin Reservoir. Carl Sitter gathered his troops and led the way up the steep, frozen hillside. They came under blistering enemy fire and sustained heavy casualties.
Carl Sitter was one of our heroes. When we talked about the Chosin Reservoir and battling in the cold and leading troops in unbelievable conditions, Carl Sitter's name came to the forefront.
When the enemy launched repeated vicious counterattacks, Sitter somehow dodged enemy fire as he found his way to each position held by his troops, spreading encouragement and demanding they hold ground at all costs.
Now, Carl was the guy that really did more than I did, I think, and that was on that hill.
Wounded and fighting off pain, he refused to be evacuated and continued to battle alongside his men.
He inspired us that he knew what he was doing, and as he said, as long as we keep fighting together, we're going to make it all right. We did.
These heroic actions earned Sitter the Medal of Honor.
Okay, that's Mr. Sitter. I love how he said he inspires courage, that if we just hung in there together, we would make it. And that's exactly what happened. Okay, now we're going to talk about Mr. Jerry Murphy. Jerry Murphy, he grew up here in Pueblo, but he went to Pueblo Catholic High School. He graduated there, and then he went to Adams State University on a football scholarship. But when he graduated, he was kind of concerned that maybe he would be drafted, and so he went ahead and he joined the Marines as an officer. So his commitment there was only for 2 years instead of the regular 4 years. Mr. Murphy was sent prominently right over there to Korea, and when we're saying cold, it was cold. It was 30 degrees below zero cold, and they were outside. many times they didn't have proper gear. When I say cold, it was cold. And Mr. Murphy is definitely known for his love of saving people. And you're going to hear the story about him and what it took. He felt that he was able to have the courage when the time came. He's going to tell you that in this little video.
I just think it's something inside that I will have to say is a creator, as our spirit, and what makes that spirit or that person do things. The only way I could say is it probably would have to be training, going way back to your birth, and that's a blessing to have family, schooling, buddies that you play sports with. It's a real blessing that some of this stuff might be in certain people and comes out at a time of need.
Jerry Murphy was the extraordinary guy that lived up to his potential.
His acts of bravery in the cold of Korea are legendary.
Most beautiful thing was when Lieutenant Murphy came up to our rescue.
February 3rd, 1953 turned out to be a dangerous and bloody day. Lieutenant Raymond Jerry Murphy defied his orders in an effort to rescue Marines stranded on the Ungak Hill Mass in Korea.
His orders was to wait, and he didn't. He went ahead and did it, and he did the right thing.
Amidst the chaos, Murphy stood tall, taking command of the stalled assault, and launched a major evacuation effort. In the face of relentless enemy fire, Murphy made trip after trip after trip back up the hill, focused on saving the lives of his buddies.
Lieutenant Murphy made so many trips, I lost count. And he kept going back and forth.
Despite being wounded several times, Murphy was firm. No Marine would be left behind. Murphy was the last man off that mountain.
Only when all had been recovered and evacuated did he allow himself to be evacuated for treatment of his own wounds.
This heroic effort earned Murphy the Medal of Honor.
So did you get that Mr. Dominguez would not even be alive today had it not been for the courage of Jerry Murphy? That's what we're talking about, honor, integrity, and patriotism. Mr. Murphy, after his time in the military, he was in the Albuquerque area, and he decided that he would be a volunteer at the VA hospital there. And after a period of time, they actually named the VA hospital in Albuquerque after him. When he was buried, he didn't want to be buried in his uniform or anything. He wanted to be buried in his volunteer vest. That's what was important to him. What a guy, right? So next, and our final recipient is Mr. Drew Dix. He went to Centennial High School. He graduated from Centennial, and he went into the Army directly after he graduated from high school, and he was sent over. He really wanted to be Special Forces, but he wasn't old enough, so he had to bide his time. And then when his time came, then he was put in Vietnam in a group in charge of mercenary soldiers. You're going to hear a little bit about Mr. Dix. We're going to hear a lot about Mr. Dix today, actually, but this is the little clip about him, and he's going to tell you he's not a hero, but who he thinks heroes are.
I think a hero is what someone looks up to rather than what you did. You know, you can be a hero in any walk of life, any profession, any occupation you're in. There's military heroes, there's civilian heroes, police, firemen, they're all heroes, and people look up to them because they lay their life on the line to do things. And I don't like to consider myself a hero, but it's a title only. You know, I don't know that I did anything all that spectacular. I really don't.
If you had two more like him, you could march into hell and put the fire out. I can honestly say Drew Dix is one of the few people I've ever seen that had no concept of fear, none whatsoever.
In 1967, Green Beret Drew Dix was assigned to the Central Intelligence Agency.
Drew Dix was involved in some very hairy, clandestine type operations in Vietnam, many of which I'm sure Drew can't talk about.
As the lone American, Dix led Chinese, Cambodian, and Vietnamese mercenaries in unconventional operations.
Some soldiers, go to fight, a little bit sure,
During the Tet Offensive of 1968, Dix led a small contingent of troops in a harrowing 56-hour battle with 2 Viet Cong battalions, although outnumbered at least 30-1. The action earned Dix the Medal of Honor.
As one person put it, this is like a real-life Rambo.
Probably one of the finest men I know.
Okay, so that's a little bit about Mr. Dix. Many of the recipients, when you ask them about receiving the medal, they say, "I merely hold it in trust for those who never came home alive." And so that is the end of this presentation. Did anybody hold on to any questions? No questions? Oh my goodness, I am so good at this. No questions at all? Okay, well, we're just going to sit here and if you're not going to ask questions, I'm going to make them up for you. No, we're waiting for someone else to arrive, so we've got just a little bit of time. I could tell you just a little bit of stories about these gentlemen on the walls around us. I'm going to show you from World War II. Mr. Joe Foss, and why he is one of my favorites is because after he was an ace pilot during World War II, after he came home, he worked as the first president of the American Football League, the AFL, and he built that up to be a competitive with the NFL. And at one point he said, "Hey, NFL, why don't we have a Super Bowl and we'll just see which teams are better?" He was the inventor of the Super Bowl. You've got to love that, right? That's Mr. Foss. And I do see a question. Stand up. The first Medal of Honor recipient, remember how we talked about it was during the Civil War? His name was Jacob Parrott, and he was part of this action. I told you that there was the last Medal of Honor recipients were from the Civil War. Remember when I told you that at the beginning? He was from that same action that those gentlemen were. And this is what they planned. They dressed as civilians. They went down into the South, and they attempted to steal a train. Can you believe that? Their idea was to steal the train so that the South couldn't get goods down there anymore and move soldiers in. So Jacob Parrott and another group of men snuck on this train, and then they began to destroy the track behind it. Jacob Parrott was captured, and he was very young. I think he was the youngest of all of them. He was only 17 when he was captured, but he was the very first Medal of Honor recipient. The youngest Medal of Honor recipient, are you ready for this? How old do you think the youngest Medal of Honor recipient was? 10. Well, now you just stole my thunder. It's actually 12. The first Medal of Honor recipient was only 12 years old, and he was a drummer boy during the Civil War. Okay, very good. Mr. Toby is going to rescue me. Thank you so much for letting me share with you. It has been a pleasure to have you here.
All right, what a great morning so far. Those of you I haven't met that didn't ride the bus, I'm Toby Aratola. I'm one of the elementary executive directors who helps with all things veterans in Cherry Creek. And so it's always an honor to be here. I want to thank the Center for American Values for having us. I had to look at my phone really quick, so I was like, when was the first time I came here to be part of this ceremony? And so I look back, 2014 was my first trip down here. And the one thing I will tell you is every time I enter this building and I look at these pictures of the Medal of Honor recipients, is I feel like they're telling me a story, right? When you look at the passion in their face. And I wish Mr. Dix could be here. Having met him many times, the one thing I will say about Drew Dix, he is one of the most humble human beings I've ever met. When you hear his story, the story always brings you in. It's amazing how silent the room gets when they start to speak because you want to hear their story and what they went through. And so it's just an amazing experience to come down here and be part of this. And so kiddos, you've done something extraordinary at your school to be selected to come here today. And so congratulations to all of you. Let's give the kiddos a round of applause. So proud of you. You have to remember there's over 53,000 students in Cherry Creek, and I think there is, Marlo, 21 of you here today. And so congratulations. And so I appreciate you honoring veterans the way you did and showing them respect that they deserve. And parents, thank you for taking time today to come down here. I know it's not easy, but thank you for raising amazing little humans. It's not easy sometimes, but I always enjoy sitting on the bus and hearing you interact with your kiddos and with each other, and so it's just an honor to be a part of this. One thing I will tell you, and I've shared this before, my grandfather was a World War II veteran, a Purple Heart recipient. He didn't share stories. That's just what happened. But I will tell you this, when he did, you listened, right? And so today, soak it in, enjoy the time. Again, I appreciate Henry being here with us to share and be part of this celebration. And then it's a learning experience, right? I mean, I've never been part of the military, but when we learn about these pieces, it's just so extraordinary of what these gentlemen did for our country. And I always go back to when they talk about patriotism. How are we going to leave our country better than the way we found it? And so when you walk away with that, something to think about, kiddos got the whole world, their whole life in front of you. And I know you're going to go on and do extraordinary things. You already are, obviously. But think about that. What can you do to leave our country better than the way you've found it? And so thank you for being here. Again, thank you to the Center for American Values. Your partnership means so much to Cherry Creek and to our family. So we appreciate you. We're waiting on Superintendent Smith. He's on his way. There was an accident on the way down that he's got stuck in. But one thing he told me was I will be there. I guarantee you I will be there. So thank you. If you have questions or whatnot, please let us know. All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you all.